After taking a different direction with the last Prince of Persia game, Ubisoft has gone back to the series' roots with Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands. The game takes place shortly after the Sands of Time and fills in the gap between it and Warrior Within. When visiting his brother Malik's palace, the prince discovers it under siege by a neighboring kingdom's army.
You've picked a bad time for a visit. I would have said you've picked a bad time for a war. Well, next time I expect you, I'll tell my enemies not to invade.
And seeing that his kingdom is moments away from falling, Malik decides to awaken an ancient army in the hopes that it would drive away the attacking forces.
You don't even know what you're releasing. As many warriors as the grains of desert sand.
What he doesn't know is he is about to unleash an army of undead soldiers into his own palace. The story here is very well done and told at a pace that will make you want to keep playing. Even during long sections of platforming and combat, the game never lets you forget what's going on, which leads to a great level of immersion, and with a strong soundtrack and top-notch voice acting, it all comes together for a presentation that truly stands out.
Perhaps these defenses do have their uses.
Along with the story, the gameplay in The Forgotten Sands also goes back to basics, and is almost exclusively platforming rather than the action combat gameplay we've gotten used to with the series. This is actually very refreshing, as it's been a while since we've seen a good platformer. As with the past games, the prince has the ability to rewind time, but he also now has a few elemental powers at his disposal as well. For example, he can now freeze water in its place, creating pillars to climb or swing on. The platforming in the game feels great, and takes precise timing and skill, especially in the later stages of the game. And the inclusion of these new gameplay elements helps to keep the action fresh and fast-paced so that it never gets boring. With the platforming, there is a bit of sword combat as well. Unfortunately, the fighting mechanics are sort of dull. They are functional and have a decent control scheme, but even with the inclusion of elemental powers, they just aren't very challenging or fun. Fortunately, combat is the only real downside to the gameplay, and because more than 75% of the game is spent platforming instead of fighting, it's luckily not that big an issue. One thing is for certain, the graphics and art style here are amazing. Despite the relatively bland color scheme, environments look great, and the particle effects of water and sand are nice and realistic. There is a bit of slowdown during big fights, but it's hardly noticeable, and really only worth mentioning for the sake of being thorough. The most disappointing aspect of the game, however, is just how little content there is to be enjoyed here. The campaign itself can be completed in just about 9 hours, and although there is a challenge mode, there are only 2 challenges, which together only add about 30 minutes of gameplay. This just feels like a tease. I guess I should commend them for having something besides the campaign, but it just seems like wasted effort when you can play through both challenges so quickly.
This is looking worse and worse.
Overall, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands looks great, is fun to play, and the story and sound design do a great job of making up for its minor gameplay issues. It's just a shame that more effort wasn't put into making this a more valuable package.
Well, this is not the glad welcome I was expecting.
Fans of the Prince of Persia series may want to own this, but for everyone else, there just isn't enough content here to recommend a full purchase. But if you're a fan of platformers, and looking for something to hold you over till your next video game purchase, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands is a fun and worthwhile rental that you will not regret. For the latest video game reviews, money-saving promotions, and to learn about upcoming Gamer Lounge events, visit thegamerlounge.net.